2025 to order. Let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
This meeting is being recorded.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The Town of Burlington will be holding the March 20th, 2025 meeting as a hybrid meeting. The governor issued an executive order on March 12th, 2020, authorizing the remote meetings under General Law, Chapter 30, extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, including permitting remote meetings and participation until March 31st, 2025.
As always, members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Note that while an option for remote attendance is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the broadcast. Members of the public with a particular interest on an item on the agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. So those seeking to attend remotely can do so at townofburlington.webex.com. Our meeting number is 2345-528-0392. Our meeting password is 1645. You can join the WebEx on your phone at 1-617-315-0704. Members of the public that are looking to participate online, please raise your hand in the WebEx, and staff will send you a request to unmute at the correct time. We're being broadcast on the BCAT government channel. You can find it on Comcast 99, RCN 15, and Verizon 41. We're also streamed on Facebook Live via the BCAT government Facebook page.
Okay. Thank you. We have one item being withdrawn off the agenda tonight. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take item 8G out of order for discussion purposes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstained? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 0. Thank you. We'll have a motion. 8G is a public hearing for application of approval of special permit pursuant to 4.2.6.1 personal services of the zoning bylaw. 201 Middlesex Turnpike. Queen Nash in Lash Bar is the applicant. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for the planning board to hereby accept the applicant's request to withdraw without prejudice on the application for approval of a special permit pursuant to section 4.2.6.1 personal services of the zoning bylaw for property at 201 Middlesex Turnpike as requested in a letter from the applicant dated March 18th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 500. Thank you. Continuances. Let's begin with the three items we have continued off the agenda tonight. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to take items 7D, 7E, and 7F together and out of order for discussion purposes.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0. Thank you. So public, let's see, with item 7D is a public hearing application for approval of the special permit pursuant to 12.1.5 PD special permit of the zoning bylaws 0 Middlesex Turnpike. NWP Building 15 LLC is the applicant. 7E is a public hearing application for approval of special permit pursuant to 1.6.7 discharge from man-made structures into the wetlands of Northwest Park Plan Development District, PDD, zoning bylaws 0 Middlesex Turnpike. NWP Building 15 LLC is the applicant, and 7F is a public hearing for the application of approval of special permit pursuant to 1.4.6 fast order food establishments drive-through service prohibited of the Northwest Park Plan Development District, PD, zoning bylaws 0 Middlesex Turnpike. Cracked Burlington LLC is the applicant. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue this matter to the planning board meeting of April 3rd, 2025, as requested by the applicant in a letter dated March 19th, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0 again. Thank you. All right, so we're going to just have a couple of rules applied to members of the public that are going to wish to speak during tonight's meetings. To please keep your comments on topic and relevant to the discussion that's occurring. If a previous speaker has stated an opinion you agree with and do not want to add on, please refrain from speaking and repeating that's already been said. This is a hybrid meeting, and we appreciate all those attending both online and in person. To ensure a proper order, I will first call on the members from the planning board, then open discussion up to the members of the public, and those in person will have the opportunity to speak first, then we'll go to the folks that are online. I will choose the speakers based on the order of the screen in front of them, where they show their hands risen, and the online attendees are muted upon entry. So please, again, raise your hand if you want to speak online. Item 2 is public participation. Is there anyone in the audience or online who would like to speak on an item that is currently not on our agenda tonight? Yes. Was it? 3 minutes, yep. Yep, typically 3 minutes for public participation. And we have one here.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Board, and thank you, Chairman Gaffney. My name is Melissa Tintoklis, and I work as the Economic Development Director. And I wanted just to take a couple minutes here. I will be very brief. You thought you saw the end of me from last town meeting. But I wanted to take a moment and thank our Planning Director, Liz Bonventre, and planning staff, Caleb Zimmerman, over the last, 2 years now. They have been very supportive and collaborative, working on many initiatives with the economic development team. And I think together we are working to really, hopefully, better benefit Burlington in the long run. And I think, you have a few things to consider upcoming. And what I also wanted to share with you is that, as you're considering different changes, I guess I'm asking for some consideration to the intent of the different zoning districts that we have. In particular, the one most recently is the mixed-use zoning district that was approved in January. And the intent of that district is really about encouraging and incentivizing development, inviting a diverse group of uses and business so we can create kind of the next generation in that mall area. And so as we're thinking about different changes, not only this town meeting and going forward, I want to just encourage us all to be mindful of that, because we don't want to discourage the development in this area. That was really not the intent. And through different regulatory barriers that we create additional hurdles that create more uncertainty that then limit development in particularly this area that we want to see development. So I know you have a few things on your plate, and there has been great consideration and addressing some of the different, I would say, amendments that are coming before town meeting or through the planning board intended for town meeting. But I just wanted to share those thoughts because it is a balance that we're trying to strike with regard to oversight, control on different uses. At the same time, create a really welcoming and a regulatory environment that seeks new businesses, and that we remain, an open door to business and development in Burlington, especially as we kind of launch into this new phase in the mixed district. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Great. Thank you. I don't disagree with that general concept, so thank you for that. Any other comments from board members? Okay, great. Let's go with announcements.
So, just one announcement, but it's a big one. There's the town election is happening. It started with early voting yesterday, right in the town hall main hearing room in this room. That's why half the room is dark in the back there, and there's limited seating. And that is going to be happening during regular town hall business hours through Thursday, April 3rd. The election day itself is Saturday, April 5th, and that takes place from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Burlington High School. And if you have any questions, we encourage you to contact the town clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements from planning board members?
Yeah, maybe
Mr. Carino.
Just between our last meeting and this meeting, I believe Don Roberts, who is a longtime director of recreation, and is responsible for the fact that we have one of the best, if not the best, recreation departments in this part of the state. And I know that when we had Celebrate Burlington quite a few years ago, and we had a whiteboard up, I think we were probably doing Town Center or something, and we were asking people what they wanted, and, they wanted a public swimming pool, and they wanted this or that. I had a woman come by and talk like to know, but I really would love to move here. I've got 3 kids, and your recreation department is top of the pile. And so I'm sure that Don had a lot to do with that, and I'd just like to express condolences to his family on his passing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Anybody else comments on that? Now, Joe, you played basketball
Yeah,
for years.
and played basketball with him for 20-some-odd
Yeah, I
years.
saw that, wow. He played until he was in his 70s, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
and he was pretty good.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, Don, you know, was a giant in the recreation department. I mean, I go back, my sister still today sing the Camp Simon song, you know. Now they call it club songs, right? I know we can have a little chorus here today, and I know it as well from them singing it, you know, continuously. But, you know, thanks, you know, Don, for his work that he's done over the years, and sorry to hear his passing.
Big Rutgers guy. He played.
Yes, right.
He was a wide receiver for Rutgers.
Right, right. Yeah, of course, yeah.
One other announcement, next Thursday, March 27th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. is the Burlington High School Building Study Community Forum at the BHS Auditorium. It also will be streamed on BCAT, but I would encourage the community to attend, get involved. There are decisions being made pretty quickly, so now is definitely the time to share your opinions.
And when is that again? Sorry.
That is Thursday, March 27th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Burlington High School Auditorium, and it will also be streamed on BCAT.
6 p.m. Great, thank you very much. Okay, legal notices of interest, none. Non-approvals. Let's see, we have item 5A is an application for endorsement of a plan believed not to require approval. 100 Francis Wyman Road, Mark A. Morocco is the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thomas Murphy representing the applicant. This is an A&R submission. I received a variance a few weeks ago from the Board of Appeals to split his lot into 2. Both lots have at least the legal amount of frontage, which qualifies it as an A&R plan. So I came tonight in case there were any questions from the board. That's short and sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Staff?
So just to kind of go over a little bit more, so the lot was, the whole lot was just under 40,000 square feet. So Lot A, they're keeping 20,000, and in order to make it a buildable lot, Lot B was under 20,000, so they went to the Board of Appeals to make that a buildable lot. So there's 100 feet of frontage on each lot. So by our books, it is an A&R, and so I would recommend you guys sign it.
Okay, any comments from planning board members? Ernie?
No, also, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. LaRue?
No comments.
Okay. Joe?
Nope.
Okay. All right, great. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign the approval not required plan entitled Plan of Land in Burlington, Massachusetts, prepared by A.C. Nelson Cartography. I don't know if I say that word right. Dated March 4th, 2025, reflecting the creation of a new lot on Assessor's Map 21, Parcel 40.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 7-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could, just before I leave, I'm not going to be at your next meeting, and I just want to take an opportunity to congratulate and thank both Mr. Covino and Mr. Gaffney for their many years of service. Ernie's been doing this longer than Light, I think, and I know Bill did the Board of Appeals for a number of years before this, but I just want to take the opportunity to thank you guys. Put in a lot of time over the years, and it'd be nice to have Thursday nights back, I'm sure.
Thank you, Attorney Murphy.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, on to item 7A. It's a public hearing, a petition to amend zoning bylaw. Let me go. Administrative matters, none. Okay, now matters appointment. 7A, public hearing, petition to amend the zoning bylaws, Article
Eileen. No, you're good.
8, Section 8.1.0, 100-year floodplain district, submitted by the planning board on behalf of the Conservation Department. Do we have Eileen online?
Eileen is online.
Okay, great.
Hi, I think everybody here has heard this already. We updated the floodplain bylaw in town meeting of January 24. to comply with the requirements of, with FEMA's requirements. FEMA has spent the last several years updating the floodplain maps in our area. It's been a very long process, and it was an iterative process. And so we updated the bylaw last year. In January of this year, we received a letter of determination which states that the new maps have been approved and will become effective in July of 2025. So the changes that we were making this time around was to reflect the date of those changes and to just make a few other minor housekeeping changes while we were at it, including addresses and just corrections.
Okay, thank you. Staff, comments?
I have no comments. Eileen is changing things like addresses and dates, and it's all, it's all good things, so I have no comments.
Okay, great. We'll again go to my right. Any comments from the board? Mr. Gavino?
No, thank you.
Ms. LaRue? Okay.
All set.
Mr. Mpemba? Okay. No? Do I have a motion?
Motion to close the public meeting on this matter?
Second. All those in favor? Aye. 700. Thank you.
Motion to recommend favorably on the petition to amend the zoning bylaws, Article 8, 8.1.0.
Nope, this is a public hearing, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I apologize on that.
Oh, sorry.
This is a public hearing. Let's see if there's anybody here or online to comment on this particular item, right? Right, I think, yeah, because we closed it.
Closed.
Yep, let's reopen. We have a vote for that?
I don't think that we have to if nobody wants.
Well, let's see, is anybody online? I didn't announce it was, so let's formally just reopen it. I apologize for running around here.
Second.
Okay, so reopening the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience online that would like to speak in favor or against? Oh, we have to revote. Okay. Let's vote on the reopening of the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 700. Okay. Now, anyone in the audience or online that would like to speak in favor or against this one? Seeing none. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Close the public hearing.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 700 again. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on track on that one. All right.
Motion
Thanks, all.
Oh. Okay, thanks. So let's make a motion for the...
Motion to recommend favorably on the petition to amend the zoning bylaws, Article 8, 8.1.0, 100-year floodplain district, submitted by the planning board on behalf of the Conservation Department.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 700. Thanks. All right, I can clean that one up. All right, 7B, right? Public hearing amend to the Article 3, Section 3.1.0 districts, and Article 4, use regulations of the zoning bylaw to provide additional oversight regarding traffic, circulation, reline uses of the Aquifer A and Water Resources WR overlay districts, and remove the industrial IR zoning district from the zoning bylaws, submitted by the planning board.
So,
Staff.
let me bring up my PowerPoint. So, I'm going to make it.
I can make it bigger if you want.
Yeah, I don't know why it won't go into slideshow. It's always so funny on here when you're trying to do it. But anyway, so this is, I'm calling it use table optimization. Whenever we have big changes happening in the bylaw, there's housekeeping that happens after the fact. When I came to you guys with the, the modernized use table, I came back with housekeeping things that, needed to be adjusted to really, help make it work. And then there are also some other things that are in there that, we need to figure out through the figuring out implementation, like how things are going to shake out. So we're basically ensuring that the permitted use aligns with the impact of the use, ensuring that the allowed uses in the underlying zoning district align with overlay districts. We're consolidating hazardous and toxic materials uses to better align with the Board of Health processes. This was a direct recommendation of our environmental engineer, Christine Mathis. And then to remove zoning districts that are no longer used. We don't have space in the use table anymore. I've run out of columns, so we're just going to do that.
Okay.
So here's the motion that town meeting will be voting on, and it's, the first clause is to remove the IR district, and then the second clause is about the use table.
Okay.
So we are kind of returning some things back to kind of IG and BG uses. So currently hotels are by right use in the mixed district, and it allows for, the planning board has site plan review discretion, but it doesn't go as far as a special permit. And so, based on the history of hotels, there are ways to make this work, and I want to make these work, and I want to work with everybody to make sure that the implementation here goes the right way. But I also want to make sure that the town is safe, and we're kind of taking care of things. Performance Center Theater, that we want that, but parking and traffic. I can tell you, I live near the North Shore Music Theater, and let me tell you, it's a lot. So, as things shake out, maybe we can make it into a yes, but we're gonna get there. Next are supermarkets. Personal services, let's start there. Personal services are things like nail salons and hair, barber shops. And they are an SP in the Water Resources and Aquifer District, and a yes in the mixed district. So we want them to be a yes in the mixed district. We don't want them to have to go through special permit in the mixed district. That's like absolutely what we want to see there, 100%. Supermarkets, really high turnover. You've got carts, you've got deliveries, I know that there was when Market Basket went into Eden's over on Middlesex Turnpike, there were some traffic woes that happened, and they had to be realigned, and there were things that, you want, everybody wants a Market Basket, but you also need to make sure that you're not backing up traffic all the way down Middlesex Turnpike. And similar to restaurants, if you guys recall the Brixmore site, where we got a lot of great things, Kava, Life Alive, Tate, all these awesome things. And you guys did allow a parking reduction there, which was excellent because it allowed these things to go in. But as a by right use now, I'm concerned that, if more restaurants with more seats go in there, things are going to back onto Middlesex Turnpike, and that's not what I want to see. I want them to thrive. And I do think that, we should be looking at the restaurant special permit and thinking about it, maybe looking at it holistically, thinking about it in a different way, figuring out kind of through the implementation process, how can we make this easier? What are things that we really need to have? What don't we need to have? It's definitely a discussion that I want to have with this board going forward. So let's see what's next. Come on, you. Doesn't want to go. Okay, so this is it's hard to see on the screen, but Christine Mathis has always said, why do you guys make businesses come and do these VSQG, the very small quantity generator, hazardous materials special permit? I don't even look at that. That's outdated. I look at everything. I don't care how much generation of hazardous waste they make. I look at everything, what they have, what they make. Like, it doesn't work in our as part of our a part of our system anymore. So that is why I have added the term generation to the use term before to make sure that it's covered. And so that is, we're not changing anything in the districts, we're just, it's an older use type that isn't kind of relevant anymore. And I have reached out to Christine Mathis, and she's gonna write up something for me and for town meeting to talk about that, which is good. Next is swimming pools. Public pools, Board of Health review. Public pools are a yes in the RO because that's your own private pool. But as, for a public pool, we want to have that extra layer. That doesn't mean that, for now, it doesn't mean that it needs to be there forever, but as part of the implementation process, we should look at these things. And then these are just kind of more piddly things that are really cool, but for whatever reason, they weren't really looked at in terms of the Aquifer and Water Resources District. And so, we want to see things like outdoor merchandise display. We want to see parklets. We want to see mobile food vendors. Food halls are really, really, really cool. I think the idea for making a food hall go from a yes to a special permit is that the management company of the food hall would get the special permit, and then whatever vendor they want to get in to fill those spots. It's just essentially the same way we handle the food court. It would be the same thing. You guys don't see special permits for the food court. The food court has one thing. So that's kind of it. We've got a lot to implement as part of the mixed district. It's exciting, it's daunting, and it's exciting at the same time, and I really want to get it right. It's the economic engine of this town, and I want to make sure that we really help it thrive. These may change as we go through implementation, but I just want to take a step back, figure things out, and then go forward. But so that's
Great.
it.
Thank you. A lot of good work on that to kind of clean things up. And yeah, we'll get to you, Joe.
Oh, sorry.
Yep. And we'll, for consistency purposes as well. So thanks for the cleanup here and for the items that, that we're looking at. So let's start over with Tony and Natola. Any comments? Then we'll go to Mr. Mpemba. I'll give you a second. We'll just, I know Joe's ready, so.
Joe's
jump at the bit.
I actually just had one question that was kind of unrelated to the mix. But it was more of the central, the civic center.
Oh, you found, okay, yes.
So I'm looking at the hazardous and toxic material chemical use, generation and storage, and it's a yes in the civic district.
Hold on.
Why would it not be a special permit everywhere? Or no?
Let's see.
And the also CBD, so the central
I
business.
think it's because, if you recall, in the Civic Center and Central Business District, we have items that are a yes sub-score 1, right? And so the yes sub-score 1 is yes, like for any, like superseding all underlying zoning.
Yeah. So, sub-score 1 is superseding?
So when there's no yes to it, so if you're talking about, we're going to 42714, you're saying in CC and CBD, it's yes and yes, but there's no subscript, which means the underlying zoning still applies. So the underlying zoning, there's nowhere that's allowed by
So it would be, in the BG, it's a no.
In the BG, it's a no. If there's an IG parcel,
Yeah.
Yep.
then that would still be a special permit because it doesn't supersede it as a by right.
Okay, so it supersedes it when it's what?
When there's a subscript. So if you go to
So if you got
restaurants,
if you got the 1,
so if you go to restaurants, the row above that, 42611,
yep,
see how in the same spot it's SP, but then there's a 1 next to it.
yep.
That's when
The SP overrides the underlying.
overrides the underlying
Yes.
zoning versus
Yes.
the versus in 42714, it doesn't override it. It just says it's allowed, but you have to look at the underlying zone to see
okay.
if it's allowed by right, is it allowed through special permit, or is it not allowed?
Right, so do we know in these, where these overlays are, we know exactly what, that everything included in the CC and CDD,
So,
I mean, I can,
everything is a,
so,
on the chemicals, is what?
so
Permit or is no?
in the town center, most of the underlying zoning is BG and IG. So most of the parcels along Cambridge Street are BG.
Yep.
So that's the, you look to the a yes with no subscript is
Yep.
a no. And then in the IG district, it's a special permit. So that's like your Grant Ave. The idea being
Grant Ave.
that, the intent of that
Right.
was
And Terry Ave, too?
Terry Ave.
Terry Ave.
Sorry, Terry Ave.
Terry Ave, right.
Right.
So are there any areas in there that are not, I guess, that are not IG or BG? Or OG, or
RO.
RO, right? Because there are some that are RO as well.
RO is a no, and so the only,
Right.
so the only districts that allow hazardous and toxic materials
Would be the
with a
IG.
special permit
Is the
are,
IG.
yeah, is the mix, the IG, and the
Yep.
I, and so,
Right.
yeah, yep,
Okay.
so,
So I guess okay, so we're looking at even in the industrial, even though the industrial should not be in that area,
yes. It still has to,
we're still going to allow,
well, you,
we're going to allow by special permit, we're going to allow toxic uses in there? In other words, is there a way to eliminate that? Because it's really so close to residential areas in there, and it shouldn't, it's, any kind of a spill or any kind of a hazardous, anything could be an issue in an area.
Do we approve life sciences for those buildings, at least one of them?
I think we have done some life sciences. Again, they're having a trouble tenanting.
Sure.
Yeah, the one at the corner across from Northern Business Machines that redid their facade. I have to double check, Joe, it was years ago, but it's something we can revisit.
Oh, because it's
Yeah.
an overlay and not a
I think-
zoning.
I mean,
Joe, are you suggesting we change those to no's on this?
well, I mean, possibly, but I think we need to look at that and see.
At the very least, maybe an SP.
Right.
At the very
But, I mean, in
least.
the meantime, because I think, ultimately, I think that zoning, the industrial zoning should be addressed.
I mean, it's
Should have
definitely
been
something.
addressed at the time of the overlay, but
I'm with
it
you.
wasn't.
Yeah.
To change-
Contrary to my,
Change the
my-
zoning itself, you mean, Joe?
what's that?
To change the zoning to something else, you mean?
Other than it shouldn't be an industrial zoning in the center of town. It just shouldn't be.
BG or something?
Yeah, should be BG or, some residential,
Yep.
or a mix of some
Yep.
sort with,
Yep, we did do that overlay, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The overlay, it would have been the perfect time to do it, but I was outnumbered on that and didn't get that to happen. And now I think in hindsight, everyone's saying it should have happened.
Okay, yes.
On this same thing, staff, can you explain
Yep.
the downside to changing those to no's? If there is a downside.
Right now.
Yeah.
So we
didn't advertise
We
it.
didn't advertise it. We didn't advertise it.
Right.
So we can make things more
permissive, but not-
permissive,
okay.
but not.
Not more restrictive.
More restrictive.
Gotcha.
So I would if I could.
No, I think but I think this is something we need to look.
I would
for.
agree.
Yeah.
I would
We
agree,
need
yeah,
to,
Joe.
because it's not, you've got restaurants there, you've got we've got a lot of it's surrounded by residential. There's a lot of things in there that really are not compatible with industrial at all.
Yeah,
agree.
I think if I remember, Joe, the reason we didn't do it was because we realized that if we
Ernie,
did
you
it,
want to
we'd
just
have-
take your microphone in front of you?
sorry.
Yeah.
The reason I think we didn't do it at that time, Joe, is because we were concerned about making all those businesses down there non-conforming uses.
Right, I think.
Because we had just gone through the CN Wood thing and whatever, I think, hadn't we?
Right, I think the argument was that we're rezoning their properties down there. I said, well, but my argument was, well, we're rezoning them to a higher use, actually. A BG or, what's allowed in the overlay is actually a higher use than the industrial use down there. And now it's coming to even,
Yeah.
now coming to fruition because they're not even able to get tenants down there, right? So it's just an out-of-place area that just needs to be
Yeah.
addressed.
No, I think that, no, absolutely, I wrote that down. I think it's something we can definitely look into, and it makes a lot of sense, and town center's been on my mind recently anyway. So, thank you. No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay, great. Back to Ms. Natola. Any
No, I'm all set after listening to what Joe had to say. I agree with him on that.
Thank you. Member Sutherland.
Thank you. I have just one comment and then one question. I think if we start to see on the use outdoor merchandise display, I think if we start to see that use pop up, understanding putting some guardrails around that in terms of, I don't think we want it to look like Main Street, Myrtle Beach, around kind of like where, how much, things like that. I think putting some guardrails around that as we go forward or see how it comes to fruition will be great. So that's my one comment. Question on the mobile food market. Is there any reason why we wouldn't treat that like a food hall or public market in terms of, wouldn't we want to review impact of a mobile food market? I mean, I understand we don't, every single time somebody wants to have mobile food, we don't want to have to like review every single one.
Right.
But if an area becomes an optimal space, let's say Wayside is like, hey, we want to actually dedicate this part of our parking lot to mobile food market, that would be cool and great, but that would have an impact to things
Sure.
like traffic flow, pedestrian, things like that. Is there a reason we wouldn't want that to be special permit?
So I think that with mobile food market, so first of all, anytime you have like a food truck in town, the Board of Health makes everybody go through like a query check. Like they make them they go through a very strict item list. It's also, so one of the things I would say is, if you're taking up parking spaces and it's a temporary use, I think we would probably work something out with Mark Dupel. Like we'd find out that for Mark Dupel at our development coordination meetings and figure out how to make it work. But it's something we can look into again during implementation. There's a lot more that we can do. And again, I think that,
So if like one becomes available, there's still ways it would come before the board for us to just understand, or at least we can always retroactively review, I guess, and make changes.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it would be really,
Because I think it would be great to obviously have these, but at the same time, because we don't have a lot of great examples, similar to your comment on restaurants, I think it'll be good for us to explore how we can make that process easier to allow for more mom and pop restaurants, smaller restaurants that don't really understand or want to go through this whole complicated special permit process. And I think it's a similar frame of mind where I wouldn't want them to have to go through that process. But at the same time, because we haven't really done it before, I'm just going to be curious how that shakes out.
Yep.
So-
No, great point. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Over to Ms. LaRue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have some comments. First, a question regarding 4.2.7.14 that we were just discussing. Can we put that on our agenda to get that change in January, or to discuss it so that we can, if we want to, put that change forward in January 26th?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Great.
Yeah,
So I just wanted to sort of get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
in
Just
there.
explore it, yes.
Yes,
100%.
and then I wanted to make a comment about the areas where we changed from yes to special permit. Specifically, it's hotels, supermarkets, restaurants. The fact that in the past this has been by special permits has served the town well. It is not an onerous process. It protects the town from unintended consequences, and I think that's really important. I also think it's important that there seems to be a misconception out there that it is a very onerous process and that businesses get denied. And I think it's important to say publicly that that's not the case. We have a very tight process. Many companies go through it very successfully, and How many did we deny last year?
0.
None. So they don't get denied, they get improved. And the work that we do in cooperation with the applicants make their project better for the town and for them. So I fully support these changes. I wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Covino.
Sure. I was, well, first of all, I'm sorry we didn't catch this before we went to town meeting. We're going to confuse them a little bit, but you're usually confused.
No.
No.
Well, I think we did.
He's like, I'm on my way out, forget it.
Not only that, I'm over 80, I can say
Our
just
staff
about anything.
requested that change.
Excuse me?
Our staff requested that they be by special permit.
Oh, yes, no, I realize that.
Okay.
I realize that, but in other words, I know we had an extremely busy January town meeting as far as zoning is concerned. Well, I understand why it didn't get caught. I was betwixt and between a little bit, especially on special permits on restaurants, but as Liz brought up, we're getting Pate and the other restaurants at the Old Tower Records, as I refer to it. And if we gave restaurants permission to go in by right, and times were tough and the landlord was trying to fill some places, we might get a restaurant in there that would mess up the other restaurants. So we're actually doing this to protect some of our commercial businesses there. But I do think that special permits deserve another look sometime in the future, because I think we may be able to handle what we're doing with special permits in other ways, such as I know that at restaurants we make sure there's odor control. I think the Board of Health could definitely handle something like that. I know restaurants are very concerned about outside seating, and usually that could be handled in a site plan review. Because if I was trying to recall why we were special permits with restaurants. And way back when I moved into town, I think there were 6 restaurants in town, and bars were not permitted.
Yeah.
At least it was never written down, but bars weren't permitted. So there was a lot of, when a restaurant came before us, we used to look at, do you have a service bar? Does a service bar allow people that are waiting to get drinks? How many drinks can they get? And that kind of crazy thing that really was in the selectmen's purview, but it ended up with us. And little by little, obviously, that has changed. I mean, we have pretty big bars in most restaurants in town, although you have to serve food in order to do that also. So I think it deserves another look. But other than that, I'd like to thank Liz and Melissa for getting together and turning this around so quickly and getting it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Covino.
Right, to that point, I remember years ago on the Board of Selectmen, people were concerned about where the bar was located within the restaurant. It can't be at the front. It's got to be in the back. You can't have the bar at the front where people can see it when they walk in the door, right?
Yeah, I know. We were trying to be an old Yankee town or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I remember that.
You can drink, just you can't do it. You can't let everyone watch you.
Bill, I just have, sorry.
Yes, of course, Ms. Natolo, please.
One question.
Yeah, of course.
What, in the column MCMOD, M-C-M-O-D, what does that mean?
That is a very long acronym. That is the MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District. It's new. It's new. It's new as of last May.
Sorry, I was...
It's why we don't have any more space in our use table.
Okay, no, I was...
No, absolutely. People ask me that all the time, like, what?
What's McMod?
What's McMod? So, yeah.
So, thank you. So the only comments I would have is on particularly on the restaurants, and I know that we want to make that simpler for, new restaurants to come in. With the advent of third-party takeout, which is the wild, wild west out there, and, if we have certain local knowledge and how traffic patterns come in and how people are driving and the impact of that with third-party takeout, I think is important, particularly for safety reasons. And I think safety reasons for the third-party takeout folks who tend to be a bit more aggressive than the local folks driving around just to stop in. So I think that's important as well, as I know we had someone from the public talk about bollards and the importance of that. So if there wasn't that opportunity, although you could move it to, you could do it to a site plan with the balls, but I think the special permits including that's important as well. So thank you. This is a public meeting. We're going to open this up to the public. Is there anybody here in person or online?
Sorry. Awesome.
Let me
Sure.
check and see. I do not see any hands online, no.
Okay, no one here? Seeing none. May I have a motion?
Motion to close the public meeting on this matter?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 700. Thank you.
Motion to recommend favorably on petition to amend Article 3, Section 3.1.0, districts, and Article 4, use regulations and zoning bylaws to provide additional oversight regarding traffic and circulation, realign uses in the Aquifer A and Water Resources WR overlay districts, and remove the industrial IR zoning district from the zoning bylaws submitted by the Planning Board.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 700. Thank you.
Can I
Yes.
apologize to town meeting for calling them confused?
That's fine. Let's go to,
Sorry, they can't do anything.
yeah, right.
Until next.
Item 7C is a public hearing and petition to amend the zoning bylaws, Article 8, Section 8.6.0. Ready for it, Ms. Natola? MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District. Submitted by the Noble Company and Affiliates NWP Buildings 34 LLC and MWP Building 35 LLC.
Yeah.
Please.
Let me share, yeah. Thank you. Todd, you're awfully tan.
That's stress.
Are we ready to go?
Thank you.
Please.
Okay.
share, right?
For the record, Robert Buckley, Raymond Bronstein to my right. I have Tamara Roy from Santec Architects, and to my left, I was the understudy last time, if you recall. I tried to do
Oh,
Todd's.
that's right. That's why you know. Okay.
Right. We have the A-team with Todd here to do the presentation, a brief presentation, because we've decided, since we've been here last, we've met extensively with staff, and I want to thank them for their comments and some guidance. We've gone before the zoning land use committee and the zoning bylaw review committee. I think both of those discussions went very well. They had a number of comments. We've decided that we're going to pull this warrant article off of this town meeting probably in the next few days, then refile it and come back in September. Because that will give us an opportunity to address many of the comments that we've heard. We're going to show briefly tonight that we've already started to do that. I prefer not to take testimony tonight because you're just going to have to do it again because we're going to refile and go through the whole process. So if that's all right with the chair, to speed
Okay,
it along.
yeah, very quickly, if that's the case. Yeah, my particular comments before we start, I thought about this the last time you came in, and I said, when I came to the conclusion of, I said, this actually shouldn't really go into the MBTA communities one. You should probably look to make this into the mixed-use innovation district, because that has a higher density, right? Versus now you're doubling the density on the MBTA, and that's going to set all sorts of precedents. So that's just my comment first off.
So we're dealing with the zoning we had. We don't want to do anything that negates your approval from the state. So
Yeah, and set a precedent to all the other, areas that were approved for that, so that's kind of, and that was a very difficult one, so again, that's just my recommendation as I thought about that since the last week. Please, sir.
Chairman, before you begin, just a quick comment on that, and I think it came from discussions with the staff. One of the big objections, not so much from Burlington, but across the Commonwealth, is that the state, through the MBTA, has taken away local control. And this is an example that, by the way you drafted it, that you do have local control, because we're back before you to pull it off and then come back on and address some of the issues that were raised. So I want to compliment the staff for, not being negative, but saying these are the issues that we should address them. And apropos of what we just went through with the zoning, rather than rush it, time sometimes leads to inadvertent errors. We're going to try to address it logically, and what we're going to suggest at the end of this presentation is that when we open the public hearing, that we go through a series of meetings, and each meeting will just address a specific issue, so that we don't get to the end and say, oh, we never talked about that. So, for instance, we'll talk architecture and fiscal impact, or traffic and whatever. We'll divide it.
Is a big thing, sure. Okay,
Go ahead.
quickly, this was advertised, but we're going to pull it, but we should still have a public open.
Yeah, so we're going to open the public, yep, so, yes, we will open the public.
Still have public, yep. Okay, good.
Yep.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, I just want to point out, tonight, we have Tamara Roy, who's a principal with Stantec Architecture in Boston, very well-known architect in Boston, who you have not met yet. So very quickly, the Area 5, we were thrilled to be designated MBTA zoning by the town meeting. We do own buildings 2 and 3. We've attempted to acquire other buildings. We can't seem to do it. Those owners are very sticky, and they've got good uses, or they just don't want to sell. Staples in particular, number 5, and then building number 1, they seem to be having a wonderful time in their single-story buildings. Single-story buildings are very popular right now in the market, as I think I've mentioned before. So if you look, this is really as you're approaching Middlesex Turnpike going north. The Bancroft is on the left, Boston Interior is Archer, and on the right you have basically, and I know this board knows this, but you have these older 1973 split entry 2-story buildings with no loading docks, and they're not in a market which is experiencing a flight to quality, and in a market where high-tech companies in Burlington are putting half or 2 or 3/4 of their space on the subleasing market. Assets, I won't name those companies, but assets like Blue Sky, which is formerly known as Network Drive, we've done over 500,000 square feet of leasing up there because it's the best in the market, and we have the finest amenities. We're putting $10 million into the amenity center up there as we speak to stay best in class. And as you know, Broad and Vericel just went up there. So these buildings have poor window lines, poor window lines, very strange entry lobbies that date back 40, 50 years. And we'd like to tear them down, frankly. So we looked around the park at different massing across the street. As I said, Bancroft, the Bancroft Building, Archer Hotel, for scale, working with Tamara at Stantec. And as you think about 3rd Ave, there's an opportunity here on Middlesex Turnpike to create the entrance to a village and to slow things down and to have buildings on both sides and to create a moment. And so when you look out, you're coming out of 3rd Ave and you see that little tiny single-story building, which is half underground, it's outdated.
Yeah, so very nice to meet all of you. Nice to be here. Thank you. So, we really feel like it's a very special moment and site urbanistically, because if you think about it, all of the neighborhood right now for Northwest Park is if you're going north, on the left-hand side of the turnpike, right? But in the future, if this gets developed, then suddenly it is this way for pedestrians especially to cross the street and be able to make their way all the way to the mall, to nature, to a lot of things over there that when it's not there, you just can't do it. And so we're really thinking about this site, sort of in the round 360 degrees and what its potential is. So next. And one of the critical things about it is its topography. So it's sloping just slightly along the turnpike, but then it quite steeply slopes down to Great Meadow Road. And as you can see, there's 163 surface parking spaces, so there's a lot of impervious surface as well as the 2 buildings. So obviously our development is going to greatly improve that factor. Next. And so we did this first scheme where, unlike what I call, you see it a lot now, is boxitecture, where developers make a big rectangular box and then they put the courtyard inside and the building feels really massive. We've done the reverse with this, and we've really tried to emphasize these crossings of bars so that when you're going down Middlesex Turnpike, what you see are the short ends of the buildings, and same with Great Meadow Road. We've pulled those bars through to the other side so that you can see sort of smaller parts of the building, and the length of the building is really masked because it's pushed back from either side. And then on top of that, we've really tried to think about that pedestrian experience where right now, if you imagine walking down Middlesex Turnpike on the sidewalk, 5 feet right next to all the cars, it's not very pleasant. And so we've built in this extra depth where you can see that red line moving in, and we'll show you some more detail about that, and a connection all the way down to Great Meadow Road through all this green space. So I think we've captured that desire line and really, reduce the amount of surface parking on the site, reduce the building footprint that's there right now, and hidden, basically nearly all, 80% of the parking is hidden below the building in the slope. So that's one of the things when you're an architect and you see a site like this and it's got this slope, like, ooh, we don't have to pay so much for underground parking because we just get to nestle it into the slope. So that's an advantage to my client. Next. And so some of you may have seen this rendering before, but so this is, our goal is that then as you come down 3rd Avenue and you hit Middlesex Turnpike, that we've scaled the building so that it's related to the buildings across the street. So you can see the Boston Interiors building is around 41. The Archer is actually 68. And so we've carved back these ends of these wings so that there's balconies up there, and we've lowered that height. And then here's that deep pedestrian experience. We've been working with Copley Wolf Architects, they're amazing, to provide this curving path with seats along it and some amphitheater seating, and a place where our residents and others will just feel safer than being being near the fast-moving cars, where they can bring their kids, they can walk, they can take their dogs, et cetera. And this is sort of the main entrance of the building on the Turnpike. Next. And so we wanted to show you just this precedent image where you can see this happening, where suddenly, spatially, there's this place happening along the sidewalk rather than just a straight line that you just kind of walk along to get to your destination. So we feel like that's going to just entice people to really enjoy the space and give it back to the public realm of the community and not just the development itself. Next. So again, this was our previous plan, and then Todd went to land use and they asked about sort of increasing even more the level of permeability to the site and thinking about that Great Meadow Road experience. And so if we go back and forth, yeah, he's toggling.
I'm doing it on
right?
purpose.
So we took that kink that we had in the building and we flattened it out and gave even more space to this green area, which now we feel like will be fantastic for all sorts of folks to use. And it takes advantage of that, the sort of winding path is helping us have an accessible route down the slope. And then it connects to our building with a little crosswalk, and then you can make your way.
Sorry.
Nope, that's okay. This is perfect segue to you, where it's making your way to the rest.
We give credit to Liz and Caleb for this idea of connecting Northwest Park through this site. There's a really big pedestrian crossing here at Northwest Park that we put in 20 years ago, 15 years ago as part of MassWorks grant that we got. And the idea that 3,000 people can go down, and these new retailers down on, here's the crossing going across with full island protection, and you push the button, all the traffic stops. It's not just a flashing light, it's a real robust VHB designed crossing right to Archer, right to our site. And then the idea that Tate is coming down the hill, when we tried to get Tate at Northwest Park, we couldn't get them. They wanted to be right on Middlesex Turnpike. All the kids say Life Alive is super popular. And Kava is also, I don't have a slide for Kava, but that's also super popular. So there are some real amenities, these two in particular, which people are going to go from this building and they would definitely walk down, and I think walk down from Northwest Park. And then if they go further to the mall. So why are we here? We do have the MBTA zoning overlay from the town meeting, of which we're very appreciative. We do need a little bit more density to create a modern building that we can manage. We need to get a building up to a certain scale so we can have full-time leasing agents, full-time property managers, full-time maintenance techs on site. We do self-manage. Nordblom family self-manages. This would be a long-term hold. They'd keep this forever. It's right across from the Bancroft. And so we're looking for a little bit of height. The underlying zoning is in IG is 80 feet, so we could theoretically build an 80-foot tall office building. That would be ill-advised in this market, frankly. But so we're looking for a little bit more height, and we can go over this more as we talk to you over the summer. more density per unit. We came down from 60 to 57 units per acre as we tightened up the building a little bit, and a little bit more parking. We do know from our other apartment buildings at Northwest Park that 1.7 is the correct number, so we don't have cars looking for parking spaces or spilling out. So we are asking, we're hopeful to go to the town meeting to ask for some modifications to the zoning. And then from an environmental standpoint, this will be the first passive house building in Burlington. The building codes are getting there anyway, so we've made the commitment just to go all electric passive house, which is an international standard for efficiency, very airtight, very thick windows, walls, triple pane windows. It goes on and on. It's actually more expensive. And as Tamara said, 80% of the parking is under this building, which is a unique thing. We've never done that before because of the site.
And we're taking care to preserve as many of the mature trees as possible.
There are many mature trees on the site, and we think we can save most of them. We'll go through that with you over the summer. So it's just a redevelopment proposal for an existing parking lot with buildings, essentially recycling the site. It's creating more workforce housing. We know that 50% of the people who live in these buildings work in and around the Burlington area. We're seeing a lot of Leahy employees. We're seeing a lot of Oracle employees. It's really resonating with the workforce in the immediate area. It helps you comply with MBTA communities because this is one of the only districts where housing really can be built, which lets us go to the state and apply for more grants, and we're committing to spend up to $100,000 to chase a grant of your choosing, whether that's a boardwalk through the marsh or additional sidewalks. We've had very good luck getting MassWorks grants in conjunction with housing. That's really a priority of the administration. We just got one in Dedham for traffic improvements. And there's some other benefits here, $750,000 building permit fee. We have hired Mark Forger, he'll come here and tell you about it, to do a fiscal impact study. It's going to bump the taxes on the site up to about $600,000 a year, which is a lot. And he thinks about $450 net to the good net benefit of $450,000 a year. And as I said, a passive house building. I think that's it. So as Bob said, we'd like to slow down a little bit. Liz and Caleb have made a very strong impression on us that we should slow down a little bit. Take the summer to work with this board and other boards. Really, we'd like to win your recommendation. I know it's a town meeting decision, but we don't like to go there without support from the planning board and from land use and from ZBRC. So we just go through the summer and do architecture one night, fiscal impact, maybe site plan with Frank DiPietro and traffic, bring his traffic engineer, have another meeting with you in August, and then go to the September meeting. So that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
There are a lot of outstanding questions that were raised. We're answering them. One of them, the major ones, is what's the rear of the building look like? We're working on that, and how that's going to have a visual effect.
Open up to the meadow. Yep, great. Okay, thank you. Staff?
I don't have any comments at this point.
Okay, thank you. Let's go over to Mr. Covino again.
One thing I think it's important, and you just brought it up, and I think you should keep emphasizing it, that in the IG zone, you would be permitted to build an 80-foot tall building?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
That is, it's correct, right?
Yes, in the IG zone.
Okay, in the IG zone. Obviously, you're not going to, but...
No, not today.
And also, thank you, Todd, for sending that thing on Beep, the autonomous shuttle.
Yeah,
Are you still going to keep, I noticed you were...
I think it's a great idea. Member Covino asked if we could get some kind of shuttle at Northwest Park running. We have about a mile from the Broad Institute down to Wegmans. And I've always thought, why can't there be some autonomous thing? It's very close. The technology is close. They're doing this on college campuses. And so I've contacted that company. They haven't gotten back. I'll chase them down. We'll see if we can try something.
I think I actually forwarded that to everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment on that too? Because I'm on the board at Middlesex 3, as you are now.
Yep.
And we've raised it as an issue that Middlesex 3 should work with the town of Burlington to try to implement that, because a lot of people in the corridor from the New Hampshire border down come to Burlington. So rather than have them get in the car to go to lunch or whatever, to try to coordinate internally that type of circulation.
What influenced me to mention that was that when Todd had mentioned that 30 to 50% of the people that live in the Tremont and Huntington actually work in Burlington or around Burlington.
Yeah.
You know, it's great. What I see happening in that area is additional residential development. Nobody's doing anything else. And for the next, sorry to say, 5 years or more. That's what we're probably going to see there, and that's great. And it's even greater that they work in the area. But if they work in the area and live in the Huntington, for instance, and they work at Leahy, and it's a rainy day or a snowy day, they're probably not going to walk. So
Right. Yep, I agree.
we don't want to put all those cars back on the road, is what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. LaRue.
Thank you. For scheduling purposes, I just want to make sure that you're aware that we only have one meeting in June and one meeting in July. So I just want to make sure you knew that. I thought from your slide that you may already have realized, but wanted to point that out.
2 in August?
We have 2 in August.
2 in August.
One in June.
One in June, one in July.
Okay.
So obviously, we're not going to discuss this in detail tonight. I think this is going to be an extended negotiation, and I don't want to start that tonight. I do want to mention 2 things, 2 big concerns that I have. One is that we presented this to town meeting when it was MBTA Communities, and that was a hard-fought win. There were a lot of members of town meeting that were very reluctant to push this forward. So the idea of increasing the number of units per acre threefold, that is something I'm worried about bringing to town meeting. I don't want town meeting to react negatively, so that's something we have to address.
Okay.
The other thing that concerns me greatly is that you don't own the other properties, but they are the other people who own those properties, we are setting a precedent here, and they're going to want the same density that you're getting. And I don't know that we can handle all of that. So those are my biggest concerns. And again, there's going to be a lot of negotiation that goes on.
We can study that, actually. We can study the other sites and show you what that looks like if that were to happen.
Okay, thank you. So again, there's a lot of work to
Thank
do,
you.
but
Good
I
comments.
appreciate you taking more time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Sutherland.
I have 2, I think, quick questions that will just kind of help me once we get into the details over the summer. How long does something like this take to build?
18 months.
Okay. And do you have an understanding for what the unit mix?
Yeah, it's very close to 50/50 ones and twos, and then as many 3-bedrooms as the board will allow. Because I do think there's a market for 3-bedroom units, but there's been a resistance over time to give us too many. I think we have 3 or 4 or 5 in the park now.
Well, and 3s would be required.
I think to meet the SHI requirements, we have to make sure that they are required.
Under MBTA? They might be. They might be.
Because we want
Under
units
inclusionary, you want to be able to count
inclusionary.
them.
Yeah, and to make sure that they get put on the SHI list.
Yeah.
Subsidized housing.
10% of the affordable number have to be 3-bedroom.
We'll be able to answer that question. One of the things I'm trying to do is present exactly what we want to build, so you see it,
Okay.
you can just vote on that, and then as part of that, we can work through the unit mix and give you the exact unit mix.
Okay. And then I think once we get into it later, it would be helpful to understand how, I know like traffic will be a big conversation overall, but I think also to then discuss traffic during construction
Okay.
will be something
Yep.
helpful to discuss. That's
Yep.
it for me for now.
Thank you. Mr. Mpemba.
No, I want to just acknowledge and appreciate the fact that you guys are kind of putting, extending it out.
Slowing down.
Give us an opportunity to work with you and come to a good project. But to be honest with you, when the MBTA thing went through, I was very hesitant about the whole thing. It actually brings me a high level of comfort to know that Nordblum is involved in the process and is going to be building, if it gets approved, will be building the project. Because we see what Nordblum has done, and we see what they're, what type of a partner they've been with the town over the years, and I feel a very high level of comfort with them. So I'm more excited about that, and I think, less concerned about the fact that there's MBTA stuff going on down there. So
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Natola. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, I just wanted to ask, in one of the pictures when you showed the lights and everything going across, so you're intending to put,
That's already there.
that it's already set up
already-
like that to go across the street, and then when you have the path going all across, that's already there?
No, we will be building the path
Be
down.
built in that was, okay, that was great, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No other comments from me. This is a public hearing. If there's folks from the public here that would like to speak, please let us know, and then we'll take a look at it online first. Folks, public, any comments? No? Okay, seeing none online?
I don't see any hands raised online, no.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion to continue this public hearing.
Yep, we continue. Well, I think we could close the public hearing.
So we don't, so I don't know if this, so the formal process for them to withdraw is for them to present a letter to the select board.
Okay.
And they have not done that yet, so.
We'll keep the public open. Okay, so let's just have continuation.
Motion to continue this public hearing to the planning board meeting of April 3rd, 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 7-0-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, since we won't be here on the 3rd, at least I won't be here on the 3rd, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your service, but I'd also like to thank Ernie. I refer to Ernie as the dean of zoning in town, because I can't remember being before any of the boards without Ernie being here. I've learned a lot from you over the years.
And likewise.
I think you've been fair. That's all you can ever ask of anyone. And you really do care about the town, which is, and I think you should take pride driving around this town to know what an effect you've had on this town. So, best of wishes.
Good, thank you.
It just means that there's going to be more phone calls in from the planning board to Ernie.
Yeah.
But Joe, I remember the days when you could only have 12 seats at a bar. Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah.
I think you were on the board.
That's right. And there was, I won't say, well, I shouldn't say, the one particular member always wanted to know.
The children's menu.
It was,
Which I never understood.
Little Eater. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Looks like there's no minutes. Other matters for discussion, a number of items on discussion. Staff, starting with hybrid.
So, we have been awaiting this auspicious time when, what has happened, I emailed everybody, but the Mass Municipal Association sent out a press release about the State House of Representatives voted on Monday to approve the extension of hybrid meetings. I spoke with Kristen today saying, what's going on? She said that the Senate has voted in favor of them today, and it is being delivered to the governor's desk. And if she doesn't sign it, every municipal person is in the room. But so it's going to happen.
What is the extension till?
It is until June, officially on the press release from MMA, it says June 30th, 2027. So that's what's signed in. I think that we brought this to the board previously of the Municipal Empowerment Act, which is separate, so that, no, this gives more breathing room to the hybrid meetings. And then the Municipal Empowerment Act, which you never know how slow these things could go, but hopefully by June 30th of 2027, there could be movement on that to potentially make a permanent provision.
Yeah.
But this, again, provides, as we say at the beginning of every meeting, from 2020, it got extended again. This is another set of an extension.
Yes, and I know, and speaking, I actually went to a conference with a planning conference with Kristen this weekend, and she said that she is actively working with the state, that she's trying to make sure that it becomes permanent, that this becomes, that it actually like happens and isn't just like kick the can down the road, so.
Do you know if, will that require a quorum on site still or not? No.
I do not know the ins and outs of it, but I can double check to see kind of what's being proposed, but then again, they can always go back, but no, good question.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions from board members on the hybrid meeting provision?
No, thank God
Let's-
we have.
Let's move on to the Select Board Government Review Committee.
So the select board.
You could move the microphone just a little closer, I think, yeah.
So as far as I'm aware, it's been on their agenda the past few weeks. The select board is getting together a government review committee, and they have sent out, they're soliciting interest for people who are interested in doing that. They are working with UMass Boston. Is it at the Donahue Institute, I think, is for
Collins?
or Collins Center.
Collins.
That's the one. I know. So the Collins Center, which is UMass Boston on government and policy. So to kind of just figure out government structure. But that's kind of all I know, but it's something that the board should know about.
Yes, Ms. LaRue.
Just one comment. I did reach out to Select Board and ask about whether or not there would be a member on the committee from Planning Board, because I think there should be, and I was told no. That concerns me.
Why is that?
I was not given a reason.
But you could be a resident and be on the committee and be from the planning.
If one of us as residents were selected, yes. I personally think it would be very important to have planning board representation on that committee, and I think probably some other boards as well.
School committee.
Because we don't all
yeah.
understand exactly what
Yep.
the other boards and commissions do. And I'm concerned about that, but it is not within our purview.
Okay. So anybody that's interested in that, I think you contact the Select Board's administrator, and then they will decide. I think, I forget the number they were talking about, with the seven
I
people?
heard.
Yeah,
7, yeah.
they were talking about that.
Was there any information on when they're deciding on the people?
I didn't
don't
see
see
that,
any.
but I can't say for sure that it wasn't in the announcement. I just don't recall seeing it.
Do you know where the announcement was?
I saw it online,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
I
Facebook.
think by reaching out to the select board's office, they'll,
Yeah, it was on Facebook on a lot of the Burlington, in multiple Burlington groups.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
great, thank you. Next is the Planning Board Procedural Rules and Regulations Update.
Caleb?
Yeah, so this kind of, with both this and kind of a little bit off in kind of a different corner of this, that, so the rules and regulations, they haven't been updated and voted on by the board either since 2002 or since 2012. So there's, reviewing them, there's just some things that they're not wrong, but they're not fully accurate to how the board, how staff work. There's kind of, updates to some of the staff, job descriptions, and just, the way that the procedures of, staff providing the board with information about applications. A couple smaller changes. I'm also in the process of looking at other cities and towns, planning boards, what's in their regulations, something we might grab that, whether it's something we do that's not in the rules right now, or something that might be something that we want to consider. So kind of starting that process up of, doing those, and that way it can be updated. There's a new date on it as far as being, modernized and correct to the board as it serves the community now. Kind of a little bit caveat off of that, I'm also starting to look into more of our applications and the way that they are presented to prospective businesses and new tenants coming into town, in ways that we can be as friendly and open to these businesses and
Sort of
clear those.
streamline it?
Yeah, and it's, streamlining it and making it clear what the expectations are. So that's starting with the rules and regulations and making sure that everything is clear in there, everything is clear in the application. That I think one of the things that I've noticed that we struggle with is a lot of times it's little things, is the amount of plans that need to be received by the planning office. In some places it might say 12, in some places it might say 8, and I don't see a need for having 12 paper plans of something anymore.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just updating that, making sure that our office, we have some filing space. We don't have all the filing space in the world, so we don't want to just keep piling up papers and papers and papers. So, everything we do is online now. We have backup folders, so I think modernizing it, streamlining it, clarifying it for staff, to the board, and most importantly to the outside applicants as they're coming in, so that there's less confusion and it's very clear to them as they go through the process. So that's something I'm starting the process on. I'll look to give updates, as I'm updating the different documents. I'll definitely send it to the board, especially the ones that you guys are going to vote on, so you can track the changes. If there's any questions or concerns you have, or any ideas you might have, please send them my way, and I'll look to incorporate them as I can.
Great, thank you very much. Very comprehensive.
That's great. What's the timeline on that?
That's kind of my spring into summer project, depending on.
So definitely this year done?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. This is not going to take years, but this is going to take weeks,
months,
couple months, because I want to take the time to fully do it right. It's a big update. It's been years, so want to make sure that everything is covered at this time.
Sure, it's kind of like a quarter type of time frame is a nice,
Yep.
yep,
Especially with so many special permits.
Yep.
It may make your life.
absolutely.
And that's the thing, that it's making sure that it's almost easier that kind of from when we receive an application, that every application looks the exact same, that the expectations are clear, so that, we have a checklist of a couple items that every time we're looking for versus, well, this time it might be a little different, that making it clear across the board.
Yep.
Great, fantastic,
Great.
thank you. Any other comments from the board on that? I think we're good. Let's look at Marshall Simons Middle School Field Project, and like they were talking about, some impervious surfaces, is
Yeah,
wet area around there.
So they are, they're still at the Conservation Commission. They're kind of trying to figure out the wetland situation and where the field falls into that. We have said that they will likely need, at the current plan that they have shown us preliminarily, it's a minor engineering change because they're adding a few parking spaces. And then it's going to be a special permit for discharge from man-made structures into the wetland. But before they come near us and our board, I want to make sure that Eileen and Concom is comfortable with the design of the project. For whatever reason, the town, built its schools in the wettest parts of town for whatever reason, back in the day before, before DEP.
On that when it was just the field like that, it was always.
It's still wet.
Oh, yeah.
Still is.
It wasn't even a real field, it was just.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
just weeds, yeah.
So, so that's something that's coming up, and we'll keep you guys apprised of that, but we're waiting on that for the.
Yeah, the impervious surface, they were looking to put kind of built-in stadium seating.
Yeah, no, the design looks.
If it's there.
Yeah, the
just on the
design
side of
looks
it.
very cool.
But there's parking changes as well.
They're adding more, amending the parking, adding more handicap spaces.
Okay, good.
Yeah, making it explicit, because right now it's not accessible.
Yeah, probably not, yeah,
That's fair.
absolutely.
Right,
So,
right.
so it's all good things, it's just might be in the middle of a wetland.
Yep, okay.
Okay.
We'll figure it out, we'll figure it out.
Let's go to the Fox Hill project. There's an upcoming submission on that.
Yeah, so if you remember, I can't remember when they came to the
They
board, but I
came
know they came to the board
a
a while ago to show the
Right.
site plan, some renderings of the space. They have come back earlier this year to one of our development coordination meetings to talk with some town officials to give an update. And we did hear from them last week that they're kind of starting the process of the formal site plan submission. So just wanted to give the board an update that that's coming. There's not major changes to what was shown previously to the
Right.
board, that there's not a reconfiguration of the site. There's still kind of following the same design. I mean, I'm sure they will go over what has changed during the review process up to this point, but just wanted to inform you that that is coming.
Okay, thank you. Just I was a member on that, I haven't heard anything from them in months, but if things aren't changed considerably, that's fine. I think just as for board members that will be here for when they come before you, just with regard to the traffic configuration is something I was focused on, and, take local flavor into that.
You might
Yes.
also want to suggest that we get an as-built plan.
Oh, absolutely, oh, that, yeah, that's, yes,
We
yeah.
have like 5 schools in towns, in town, and maybe 1.5 as-built plans.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, yes.
Okay,
So thank you for the reminder, Ernie. Yes.
thank you. Correspondence, none. Reports from town council, none. Subcommittee reports, Sculpture Park, Ms. LaRue.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to report.
They moved it, where'd you move to?
The sculptures?
Yeah.
They have not yet moved.
Oh, I
So,
thought you were gonna say.
No. The Sculpture Park, also now known as the Public Arts Committee, is still in negotiations with Select Board regarding the temporary relocation of the sculptures. It has now been decided, they picked a hybrid of 2 different options, which will have sculptures placed in one corner and in creating a walkway on the common along the Center Street side, possibly having some on this side of the street. But we need to go out to the field with Recreation and Select Board and actually select the exact locations before Select Board will then sign off. So the plan is still to move the sculptures over the summer, and I think we're on track to do that. So that's the only news from the Public Arts Committee. I'm also
Just one second on that. Just on the Public Arts Committee, I don't think a lot of people know that the name has changed.
Oh, okay.
There was discussion at Ways and Means last night with regard to the money coming in and the money coming out as a subcommittee of the Planning Board and how that's
I can also
managed.
address that.
Okay, please.
Okay, so just briefly, the reason for the name change is because the committee is going to be doing things besides sculpture. So we wanted to sort of broaden our horizons. The issue that was raised last night at Ways and Means, I actually am really glad that came up. I reached out to John Denizio because I do think it makes sense for us to formalize that process. The Public Arts Committee is a subcommittee of Planning Board. The question is, the money is all handled by accounting. We have a revolving account, and Sam Hockenberry keeps me up to date on how much money we have, and all invoices are submitted, all donations are submitted through the town's accounting department. But there hasn't been any particular formal process in terms of who is supposed to be signing off on things. So I've reached out to John Denizio, asked him for a meeting, and he said he would get back to me. We'll set up a meeting and come up with a more formal process. It may or may not involve this board, or perhaps just the chair of this board signing off on things. I'm not really sure how that will end up, but we're working on it.
At the end of that, I was just thinking, with now the new naming of the Public Art Committee, does it still make sense that it is a subcommittee of the Planning Board? Where else would it
Well,
go?
the reason it was a subcommittee of the Planning Board,
Bless you.
is because no one else would take it, frankly. So I don't really know where else it could go. Originally, when we formed, we thought it would make more sense for it to be under recreation.
Yeah, makes
They did
sense.
not want it. So that's why it's here. I don't really know.
Wonder how other, where it falls under with other towns.
A lot of other towns actually have a dedicated person within their town structure who is in charge of public art and oftentimes does grant writing and stuff like that. And there are some towns that have a whole department that does that. We do not. There's been, we've been discussing for a long time amongst the different members of the Public Arts Committee that the way we're running right now is not, it's not something that can continue
If it gets bigger,
indefinitely
they're
the way
going to
it
need
is.
to do something.
As it grows, we will need to probably get into the town organization somehow. And that's something that we're talking about with John Denizio. We've been discussing it for about a year. We don't really have any answers yet. Part of the problem is that in order for that to happen, the Public Arts Committee would need a budget. It would have to be part of some department's budget. And no department wants to give part of its existing budget, so we would be looking for money from the town. And to be honest with you, I don't think now is the right time for us to be asking the town for money. So the Public Arts Committee met and discussed and decided that we would just wait. We're going to continue the way we are. We'll formalize the structure for how we handle accounting, but we just didn't feel that with all of the different expenses the town is facing, with the economy the way it is, we don't feel it's the right time to ask the town for money. So we're going to continue trying to run the committee on donations, at least for the foreseeable future, and we'll see what happens.
Was the Public Arts Committee had anything to do with the mural that was on the side of the building downtown?
No, the mural was actually done by the Economic Development Director. She got a
Okay.
grant for that. And she also got a grant that she's using for the Mobile Art Gallery. The Mobile Art Gallery is something that's also running through the Economic Development Director's office.
Okay.
We are working closely with Catherine Lecomte, who is running the Mobile Art Gallery. There's a lot of synergies, of course, between the Public Arts Commission and the Mobile Art Gallery. We're going to be working together. We're thrilled with that. I think it's going to be a wonderful addition to the town.
Okay.
Wasn't there a group of artists in Burlington who actually
I thought there
received
was
some
kids.
money from the Lottery Commission, right? Cultural
Oh, I'm not
Council?
aware.
Cul-
Oh,
the Cultural
there is the
Council.
Mass Cultural Council that the town gets money every year that goes to the Mass Cultural Council, and there is one person in Burlington who administers that money. It's not a lot, and it is used every year to fund projects within the elementary school. It's usually an artist in residence type projects. That's, if all of us who have had kids that went through school, you have your artist in residence that comes. It's a wonderful program, but that's where all the money goes.
Okay, thank you.
There's no extra.
Okay,
So
thank you. All right, we have Police Station Building Committee, you said?
that's
Ms.
me
LaRue.
too. We met in February. We have not met since then. I think at the last meeting, we all saw some early designs. My biggest concern right now with the police station building is the schedule. Have they submitted to us?
I have an
Okay.
update on that. They have not
Okay.
submitted.
Okay.
I will preface it with that. But
Okay.
I did speak with the architect and the engineer
Mm-hmm.
from the project team earlier this week. They did not show me a site plan that meets our requirements yet. And I told them that that's, we want to make sure that we don't want to be the ones that completely hold everything up, but we also want to make sure it's up to our standards. So
Right.
kind of finding the balance between that. So, had them review our site plan rules and regulations and said, we can't accept, and our staff can't accept, that the board won't accept an application that doesn't, that with this first site plan, doesn't adhere to our site plan rules and regulations, to kind of put you in the system, because we do have pretty far out deadlines, especially because this is a site plan, and that's a public hearing, so we need to adhere to open meeting law as far as posting in the paper, sending out the abutters notices. So that's kind of, I've talked to them about that, kind of laid it out to them as far as, these are the deadlines, these are our meeting dates, we're not changing the meeting dates. We can do our best to kind of fit them in within the deadlines. So we still have not received anything. We will update you once we have received an official application from them. But as of right now, there's nothing that's been submitted to this board.
So at this point, is the earliest they could come before us the second meeting in April or the first meeting in May?
I would have to double check our deadline
Okay.
schedule. It's going to be tight at this point for the second meeting in April.
Okay. If that's the case, I think we can assume it's not going to happen to the first meeting of May, and that's where my concern lies, because this is a very complicated project. I think we want to do a really good job, but hopefully, we'll have 2 meetings in May if they get in time, and then there's only 1 meeting in June, 1 meeting in July, and they want to start demoing, my understanding is, sometime late August, early September. So it's very tight. And like Caleb said, we don't want to be the people to hold the project up, but we've been asking, and
But if they
we're
won't
worried.
do it,
We're worried.
that's what we need.
Yeah, and they have a lot on their plate. They spent a lot of time from November to February working on the temporary police station, and that took up a lot of time. I'm just want this board to know that that is a concern. I wouldn't be surprised if that schedule slips, but, it's something that I want everyone to be aware of.
I do have, you brought up the temporary police station.
Yes.
After the meeting, we do have the Mylar to sign that, and they're ready to go with their building permit, so
Okay.
just an update on the temporary.
Don't leave before you sign it.
Okay.
Thank you. High School Building Committee. Any other comments, please?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
No. I hope they're putting some work into getting a design that's going to be, because what they presented was just so far from what I would anticipate a show, something in that visibility of a spot on the town common being. It looks like, again, and I think we've heard comments, everything from it looks like a assisted living facility to it looks like an apartment building. It looks like the Grandview, behind the Grandview Commons behind where the senior housing is over there, which, as we know, is they had to put the cheapest building up they could possibly put. This is not I don't know if they're taking it too seriously about what they should be doing in the center of town. And that's a big concern of mine.
This board has design control.
Well, yeah, but in other words, they don't seem to be very responsive. So,
Well,
you know,
we
at
have-
what point do we, like you say, we don't want to hold their project up, but I'm certainly, I would hope the board is on, you know, is on the same page as
We
to
have-
what kind of quality we want to see in the center of the town.
We have design review in that they have to meet the standards in the town center overlay district.
Right.
And they've been told that, they know that. So they can't bring something to us that does not meet all of those regulations. So within that, so if they meet all of those requirements, there's still a lot that's subjective that we may or may not like. And I think then it becomes more of a negotiation and we can make suggestions, but
If you don't have anything in front of you. Yep.
yeah, if it meets the design regulations of the town center overlay, and I don't know yet if it does, I'm not saying it does, but if it does, then I think we're a little constrained as to how much we can do. I'm not sure, but I would encourage every member, if you have the time, if it's possible for you to attend a police building committee meeting when we have them, it would be better if they hear from more members earlier on. I think I think that would be
They've
beneficial.
heard really early on from me, and I would expect that it's a town building. You know, this is not us having control over some third-party building somewhere else. This is us having 100% control as a town as to what gets built on the town common. And I don't think they should be meeting minimal standards on anything. I think they should be going out. There are towns out there where you look at that build municipal buildings that would knock your socks off, that, you know, that are beautiful, gorgeous brick buildings with beautiful designs and peaks and valleys on the roof. And here they are taking down a historic building, and they want to put this monstrosity of a building up there, and they want it to look like an apartment complex. And I just feel like this was my concern from day one, and now it's actually coming to fruition that, well, we have the minimum design criteria that they have to meet for the downtown center. So basically, they're meeting the same criteria that Dunkin' Donuts has to meet when they go down into the you know, the business center of town down there. This is our town common.
Okay. The impression that they were supposed to try and make it look like the center school or something?
They brought forward something that looked like the center school, but the problem was, and I think everyone who saw it agreed, that when they tried to replicate the same look, only larger, it ended up looking like a big block.
Right.
It was very unattractive.
I think that's the concept.
Yes, I don't think it's fair to say that they're trying to do the bare minimum or that they're trying to make something that's cheap. And I don't agree with that. But I do think that that's why I think more input from this board is helpful. And if you've seen municipal projects that you think are stellar, send the photos to me. I'll bring them. And I'm not sure what you're looking for. So it would be helpful for me to know that, and I'd be happy to bring it to the meetings.
I think, you know, to be honest with you, the architects have heard what we've said, I would assume, and I don't know why they can't come up with something. They're presenting things that all of it, it's not a question of what I want, it's a question of this whole board looked at what they came up with and said it looked like an apartment or an assisted living facility. So it's not a question of what I want, but I think the whole board has looked at what they've, after all the time and effort and supposedly, you know, engineering or design they've put into this thing, they come up with something that just everybody's looked at and said, that's really not what we want to see in the center of town.
I did not look at it and think that. I think that it should be brick where there's that other material that it was unclear what it was, and I think there are improvements that can be made. I did not hate it. But I'm one person, and I think more members of this board should come to those meetings and have input before they come.
You know, Barbara, I've heard that a lot of times, and to be honest with you, my job I don't have a half, I don't even eat lunch.
Can they,
I don't have a minute.
Can they come before us with their options
the
prior to
problem.
their formal?
Why don't they come here more often?
So if we have them come before us at the next meeting with the options that they have, so we can provide input.
I think.
Just for
we should ask
discussion
that.
purposes?
I think we should ask that, but I also think it's important for us to be able to tell them not only what we don't like, but what we do want to see. Because I think we could tell them, we don't like this, that, and the other thing about your design, but that doesn't mean they're going to walk away knowing what we do want to see.
So, but we need them in front of us to take a look at.
But we should
specific-
also maybe come up with some suggestions, some examples of things that we think
Sure,
are
that
stellar.
we think are best in class.
So one thing I will say is that the website, the architect's website, all they do, their major architectural type, they do police stations. So they're the experts on what police stations need on the inside, and then how to make all the things that need to happen on the inside to have a really stellar police department look nice on the outside. So they have, if you look at the front page of their website, it's just all pictures of what they've done in the past.
What's that website?
What is it?
KBA Architecture.
Why don't you send us all a link to that?
Thank you.
I will send it out to you guys, but it's KBA Architecture.
So we've had so many pictures of downtown, even downtown storefronts, okay? So you start with something like that, and say, okay, how do we make this now into a police station? You know, it doesn't have to look like a commercial building.
Right.
It can look like a storefront kind of a building in a downtown center. That's beautiful.
Let's give them some examples, some specific examples of that.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, because I think it's helpful for them as well if you say, oh, you did this one over in Groveland and this one down in Ashland.
We love
And I like this part of that, and
Right,
that part, you know.
Yes.
And it's one website, and you can see, you know, so it's actually very helpful for me, too, to
I
see what
think
they've done
that's
and
a
be like,
great
okay, it makes me feel better to know that this is.
I mean,
so-
is there a way you guys, because you came up with some good design things from the downtown and some different, pictures that we were looking and said, yeah, these look beautiful. Like to somehow give them that idea and say, can you incorporate this into the building
Absolutely,
somehow?
no, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. They have been, they've been handed, emailed, talked to about the town center design rules and regs, and the message has been, when you come before the planning board, you need to, and you're discussing the architecture here, you need to speak directly to that
Right.
design rules
Which
and regs.
is actually maybe part of the problem, because some of the police stations that they've built that are very attractive
Yeah.
would not meet our
100%.
our town center overlay regulations. That's part of the problem.
Which, a question on that, because I know Lexington recently did or is doing their police station, and for theirs, they have, this is such a very specific thing, but I thought was interesting. You start to see the solar canopies for parking?
Yes.
Is that something that we have allowed in the town center?
There's, not in the town center. I don't know if it's allowed in the town center. We have it in other places,
Yeah,
like on top
okay.
of the
I
Oracle.
don't know if you can't allow it in the town center from
Gotcha.
another front yard, but you have to allow it by right, I think, anywhere, right? We went to that, we went down at Holy Cross, and I think for the solar, they had to, you have to have it by right, but there's certain conditions you can put around
So
it.
I think they are looking to make sure that the roof is solar ready, and I think, not the front, well, I don't know, but they're trying to make the roof solar
Right.
ready, so that
They
it
said
will
they
be,
would, yeah.
they'll have the conduit there if they want to do it, and they'll be able to hold the load, so it's not part of their scope, but they are looking at the roof.
Well, because I was thinking with the canopies, it's also nice to protect the vehicles
yes.
from
Oh, in the back, in the back.
in the
where-
back, from like sun, snow,
Yeah,
whatever.
It's not in the front yard, I think
Yeah.
that'd be okay.
But
Couple
I
of
didn't know if it
problems
was
with that.
allowed.
One is that you got to take down a lot of trees to do that. And we want to take down as minimal trees as we possibly
Right.
can. Number two is, I remember this came up a few years back when St. Margaret's tried to do it down there, and everybody was up in arms, even having it done in St. Margaret's. Now you're going to put it on the town common.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's tough. It's-
That's not going to be, that's not an easy sell. I'd be the first one to say, no, I don't want it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying.
At least in,
I really hope that all of the board members look at the website, look at the police stations that they've done, send send your thoughts to staff,
Your
I guess.
favorite three.
And I'll take a look at it, and I'll bring it to the building committee meeting, because I know everybody can't go to them, but I need to be able to go to them and tell them what we want, not just what we don't like.
Right.
Right, I guess what my thing is, well, I've looked at, you drive, and I've seen Star Markets in Belmont that look like, so much nicer than what they're trying to put on the town common.
Yep.
Again, I can't, I'm going to be driving around, no, I can't, because what am I going to do, drive around?
Just
and try to
tell
look at things,
tell us what do you see if you say, hey, the Star Market in Belmont.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, those people didn't have someone to have to point and say, look, do this. Did someone have to take a picture of something and send it to that architect to
But
build it?
what they're saying is, this website that they're going to give us, they've done a bunch of police stations. If we could just pick out 3, even I'll try to get them to her.
Yeah, no, that'd be
I can
super.
send out the link.
Okay, so
If you go to the,
link, I'll look, and
on the
then I can
homepage, they have a
find,
couple different tabs right at the
okay.
top. If you go to projects, there's, I think it's like five whole pages worth.
just something
of
on that
projects they've
idea,
done. Each
like
one
we could pick
is-
because they're police stations.
It has a picture of the front of the building with the name of it, then you can click on it, and I'm sure it kind of goes.
Maybe, I don't know how quick you do this, maybe just do a poll, a poll just to say, here, because they've all got names underneath it, you say, here's the website, pick your top 3.
I mean, and if
like that.
honestly, it's one of those where if you want to do that, or if, once each member has had a chance, you can just send staff a message of saying, here are the ones. And at the next meeting,
We can tally them up.
One of Liz or I or both, and Barbara will be there, we can bring it up of saying, let's reference this.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that concerns me is that, didn't we say, you may have been you, Barbara, that said, can we incorporate some brick? And they said, well, no, but we can make something that looks like brick.
Looks like brick,
That's
yeah.
cheaper.
What is that?
That's really what they're saying, is something that's not as expensive as brick.
Why would you do brick?
It's cheaper.
They said they could.
Replicate something that maybe look like
So
brick.
what they had on there was.
Shakes, they had shakes, like.
Right, and I said where the shake is, I would prefer to see brick.
Yeah.
And they said we can do some brick, something that looks
do a
like.
lot of brick.
Simulate something that looks like a brick. I'm like, that's a concern, right?
Right,
I mean, that's a
they didn't
concern.
say that word, but I think that's what they meant. So,
They were trying to say.
all right, so we're all going to look at send staff our
So
top.
You'll send us
few-
I already.
Yeah, he emailed the
Oh,
link.
good, okay.
Great.
So by next week, everybody send it back to staff.
Yep,
Yes.
that'd be
Get away.
so,
Please do.
super helpful. And it'll be helpful for them too, because
Yep.
they're also, they
Absolutely.
want to.
So they're not blindsided when they come in here.
Right?
Yep.
So, good
Kayla,
stuff.
did you email that to all of us?
I just did, so it might take a minute or two to come through.
All right, high
If you don't
school,
get it, you can email me.
high school building committee, who's on that for?
Yeah, we are. I wasn't able to attend.
I went to the last.
You went to the last one, okay, because I wasn't able to go to that one.
Tony and I went to the last
Yeah,
meeting.
and I know there's one Thursday
Right.
coming
So,
up.
Yeah, the community
news.
forum.
I went to the one.
Big
From the
news,
last meeting.
Yeah, you went.
big news.
The big news from the last meeting is that they pared the options down to 2. We were at 5, they narrowed it down to 2 options. The options, if you want to go online, you can look at them. The options that are still on the table are NC5 and AR8. NC5 has a building on Varsity Field. AR8 is a new academic building, but in the
like an-
same, sort of at the location, coming out toward the circle, basically. So they would build out into the circle. When that was done, they moved the kids into it and they knocked down the center of the building. On all options, eventually they would be knocking down the center of the building, keeping the upper part of the high school, no kids in it, just admin, BCAT, science center, daycare. And the lower part of the building, the gyms, and I can't remember if this one's keeping the auditorium or not, those would remain. The big question, though, is can they do NC5? Because NC5 requires them to build a new varsity field. So at the last meeting, the committee voted to take off the table the option of putting varsity field in the middle of where the high school is now. They took that option off the table. They're looking instead at putting the track there, but putting the new varsity field over on the practice field. So of course, the big question about that is, can you do that? Because it's pretty darn wet. I did notice
They
they
narrowed
flagged
it
it.
to 2 things. now,
Yes, they flagged the field. this week. I don't know what the flags mean. There are flags all over the place. But I
So it's
assume
but it's either now to a brand new or to the one with
they're
the
both,
renovation.
they're both
right,
brand new,
renovation.
really. They both give the kids a brand-new academic building. The only thing, exactly, the cafeteria would be new. The only thing that would get reused is the gym and possibly the auditorium with both options. But the big question mark is, can they build anything on the practice field? And I also have questions about, because they showed it, they sort of had it diagonally where they thought they could fit it. But I also had questions about if that's uplands and they can squeeze it in there, how do you get people there without them walking across the wetlands?
Right.
So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll find out. I'm sure they're going to be going to conservation.
Well, I mean, wetlands, you can replicate as long as you're not, it's not
Right, but
destroying
they
all
have
the
to
wetlands. but-
replicate it at a 2-to-1 ratio.
Our ratio
And
bottom
I'm not sure they have space on site to do that.
And I'm pretty sure that the option you're talking about, I think there was they said they were going to save the auditorium.
Okay, were they? Okay.
Right there.
They would still have to do a lot of work in it because it's not
Right.
currently.
It's not ADA, and there's a lot of things that
Right.
supposedly had to do with it, but,
Right.
I mean, they said it's in good shape, so,
Yeah.
if it's something they can work with, I mean,
I'm not sure
Well,
how they
because the
make that
amount for the
ADA.
brand new one is so astronomical for people in the town, I think it's going to be a problem if it was more doable.
They all are.
Yeah,
They're all
the same
similar.
cost.
No, it wasn't. There was a different cost when I was there.
They're both like 300-ish.
There was a cost of, I think that, the last time I looked, I think the cost differential between these two projects was about 15 million, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you're talking about 350
Hundreds.
million, it seems like it's not as much, but still,
It was going to be over $1,000 for people.
Per family.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think
Per
that's a
household.
lot.
Either way, you look at it, yeah.
yes.
A lot.
Yeah, so, and that's the other thing that unfortunately we have to consider, well, we don't have to consider it, but the town has to consider is those estimates may very well change if there are tariffs on steel and aluminum.
Correct.
And
Sure.
that could be a big difference.
Yep.
But again, that's not for this committee, but that's where it stands. The field's been flagged, and I assume that we'll hear sometime, hopefully before our next meeting, as to whether or not that option is still on the table.
Excellent. Thank you for the update. Any other unfinished business? Except for signing the Mylars, any new business from any of the planning board members? That being said, may I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
700, thank you.